Waibalya Namani, and welcome to Nganabawanga, Stories from the Mobile Language Team. I'm your host, Jaylon Newchurch, and I'm a proud Narungga and Kaurna man. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're recording on today, which is the Kaurna people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Each episode, we share stories from the Mobile Language Team and Aboriginal communities across South Australia, highlighting projects that strengthen, revive, and reawaken Aboriginal languages. So let's get into it. Language and music are both ways we tell stories, but they're also how we hold on to who we are. And I've been thinking about what happens when those two things come together in the same space. Today, I'm sitting down with co-director of the Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music, also known as CASM, and we're talking about language and music and how they connect and how they're being used in creative ways. Do you just want to start by introducing yourself and what CASM is for anyone who might not know?
So I'm Grayson Rotumah. I'm a Bundjalung man from east coast of Australia. And I came to CASM in 1991. I heard about this amazing music centre in Adelaide, and I didn't even know where Adelaide was, but there you go. Long story short, I received an E for music in high school. And so I thought, my music career is over. But, hear about this place. And I come down to CASM in 91. I put a crowbar through my toe on the Gold Coast Council. So I had 3 months off work. So I thought, wow, what the hell? Let's give this a crack. So here I go. Free trip down, ab study paid. Here I am in Adelaide thinking, there's no way this guy from Bundjalung community is going to get through anything. Got an E for music. Anyway, so the old CASM days in 1991 was situated in North Adelaide on Melbourne Street. And it was an old boat shed that had been done up. And so I walked in and did my audition and I thought, Nuckin, see you later. Never see me again. And lo and behold, I get an invite to, saying you've been accepted into Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music. Oh. So I limped back home. I was on crutches from my crowbar injury. And I said to my wife, well, what do you reckon? She goes, why didn't you do it? And I had a little son. He was 1 year old at the time. And so I came down to CASM. So from that very first moment of walking into CASM, I realised this wasn't a standard or a usual orthodox music program. This was about a space for Indigenous mob to come into to progress their voices in all capacities. Mm-hmm. And from that day that I walked into the Finnis Street studios, I knew exactly what had happened. I knew my world was going to change. Mm-hmm. Next minute, I'm director.
Yeah, far out. And so, like you said, you've been part of the program, mm-hmm. And now you're the director or co-director of the program. So tell me a little bit about the kinds of works that can happen here.
Yeah, so we do a lot of things. Our first priority is to ensure that our students get through the music program. So it's all about that pastoral cultural care that our students need in all its capacity. So we have mob coming through from corrections. We have mob coming through from, mental health institutions and things mm-hmm. like that, all that sort of amazing support that needs to be done. So our first priority is to make sure that that's our duty of care. Build that up and support our students through music, mm-hmm. Skills development. From there, they can then go on and do an undergrad program in the Elder Conservatorium. And that's a 3-year degree, obviously. And then we have another function of the CASM program, which is research. And we have a lot of research programs running at the moment. We have ARC projects, $1.1 million ARC project. We do commission works around things like Indigenous Health Songbook, which is a new platform that we've launched last year mm-hmm. By ILA, Indigenous Language and Arts. And that's all about language revival through music. And then we did, the wonderful Kaurna Songbook that,
Yours truly was on there?
Yours truly was on, who actually stole the show. And then we do a lot of international stuff as well. So we're, invited on all kinds of First Nations panels around the world. We've had an amazing network of artist legacies that have come through the program. So from No Fixed Address from the early 70s to Uncle Bunjalung's Coloured Stone to Us Mob to the mob from Cuckles, the Pigram Brothers. We've had the mob that are in, choreographs and were instrumental in Bangara dance. We had people like Elaine Crombie. We had Electric Fields, who did Eurovision. People like Ellie Lovegrove, who were on The Voice and X Factor. Simi Vuata, Voice and X Factor. And of late, let's not forget Tilly Thomas and Katie Aspel, and of course Jaylon Newchurch. And then of late we had Dem Mob come in the program in the last 3 years, and they took out 10 South Australian Music Awards.
Yeah, far out.
So we've been quite busy, and we've got quite a few other projects that we've got a finger swirling around on paper at the moment. And one of them is working with Corrections Mob, and I'm setting up a program called Journey Home.
Yep.
And so the idea is that for 3 years we'll go inside the corrections and then build up a rapport with Mob and hopefully create some sort of musical pathway or work-related outcome. But at the very least, they'll receive a certificate in Aboriginal Studies and Music.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just going back to that thing of, all them past big names that you've said that have come through CASM and stuff. What's it like seeing that growth happen over time?
Absolutely incredible. As I mentioned earlier, I came down to CASM as a student and I pretty much just wanted to be a rock star. That never happened. But what I did find was working with Mob, in all that capacity, it really created and built on my cultural DNA. So my very first, I guess, connection and, being influenced by Mob was with No Fixed Address when they come through the door. And they were like a legacy of the 1970s, Aboriginal music evolution. And because I've been here 30 years, I've found that, number one, I grow off all these amazing talents, but it's a way to reflect back into the program to be very progressive with our times and with our voices. And so what we do in our course delivery here is build our courses around the growing need for Indigenous music.
Yeah.
So we work with orchestras as well. So Dem Mob, who are now working with the ASO. We have Nathan May, who's another alumni working with the ASO. So things like that. It's amazing as a lecturer or teacher or whatever, mentor, to be able to not only just stand there and deliver, because it's never about that. It's about absorbing what's coming through.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like you said, you work with a lot of different communities and stuff. I guess, is there different ways, have you noticed yourself, you've got to engage in different ways with different communities you found, do you reckon?
Always. Always having to. And I think that's the part of the job that I never thought I would have. I used to throw up before I'd walk on stage anywhere when I was on the Gold Coast. That's how, performance anxiety and talking in front of people or doing anything like this, there are things where you have to read the room, and then you have to be very culturally sensitive and culturally aware of your different spaces. And it's all about respect, And I always say to our students, when you walk through here into CASM, you leave your egos at the door, and you have to be aware of who's in the room with you and where their mob are, and how you all have to play nicely for the greater good. And as a teacher, as a lecturer, and as someone who works across all these, platforms in the community across projects, that's the very first thing I try to do every time, is just know my space.
Yeah.
Because, everybody knows that when you've got 250 nations, you do have 250 nations, but inside each of those nations, there's a lot of little other nations and lots of family groups and everything else. So there's always a tread carefully kind of, ethos that I carry.
Yeah. But I guess your main thing is, you just want it to be CASM is a safe space for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's changed a lot over the 30 years in terms of the leadership model. And really proud to say that the last 3 years, I think maybe 5 years, when Dylan and I stepped in as Indigenous leaders, the very first Indigenous leaders, I would have to say that that's been instrumental in how we have the keys to the kingdom and how this program develops and evolves. And it's never been in the hands of an Indigenous leadership here at CASM, which is amazing that we've survived so much. But I think when you've got people like Dylan Krismani, who's the Dr. Dylan Krismani, who's the co-coordinator, he brought a lot of game to the program with his skill set. Incredible. It's exactly what this place needed. And our new staffing this year is 3 extra staff. One of them is the amazing Trials, Daniel Rankin, ARIA award-winning Daniel Rankin, and Will Barton, who's coming into the program officially now next week, which is incredible, and Hannah Yates. So all that, influx of skill set and experience is only going to, develop a broader tentacle of art, voice, Indigenous culture, cultural maintenance, language revival, the whole lot. And it's really exciting time.
Yeah. And no, I'm just amazed of how, like, a program at a university level is all just, guided and taught by all Aboriginal staff. So, yeah, I take my hats off to, like, each and every one of you. It's, amazing to see it because how rare, you know what I mean? You never see it.
It is very rare, Jaylon, and I will add this in because I'll curse myself for not saying it. Where CASM is now, we're situated on the 6th floor of the Schultz building on North Terrace campus. CASM's always been here, but we now have some amazing, neighbours on our floor, and one of them is the mobile language team.
Yep.
They have been instrumental in, assisting us with growing our power base, actually, to get these projects over the line. So we've kind of like shrunk but grown at the same time. And, mobile language team, including where you guys are seated, I'm sure you get sick of us talking stupid and walking around here and breaking things. And
Nah, it breaks things up during the day, so it's fine.
Yeah, but it added another sort of cog to our machine, and it goes around in ebbs and flows. So we've got a lot of projects with the mobile language team. So we get mob coming in and, can we use the CASM studio and, do this song for Uncle, etc. And that just sort of embellishes, that sort of altruistic nature that CASM has always had, which is being there for the community.
Yeah, no, cool. And you mentioned before, about some of the language stuff and getting involved. And so, in some of the work here, language can be part of the process. What does that look like when it comes up for you fellas?
The language isn't a new concept for us. So when I started here in 91, and I'll go back even further, CASM began as a music cultural program from Auntie Leela Rankin, Ngarrindjeri woman, and Kath Ellis, who were studying Inma. So from the get-go, it was all about how can we notate Inma songs in Pitjantjatjara.
Yeah.
That's 1970.
Yeah, wow.
Incredible. And in fact, the research that come out of that, Kath Ellis's research, was what imploded CASM into being a music program. So it was a research centre at first around language, and then it was a music program. So we were more of an orchestral program in the 1970s because that's what was big about it. But as time marched on, we had a lot more mob coming from all around the urban areas and who are sort of weaponized with guitars and drums and so forth. So they wanted to study at CASM.
Yeah.
So the language component was always in there. So you see that in things like Jungaringanyi, or you look at Kath Ellis's books around CASM and Anangu Pitjantjatjara language, but more around the Inma component. So if we fast forward that to now, we've taken on more of a broader focus, if you will, and particularly with mobile language team, you guys do a lot of stuff that are about out in the community and that cultural maintenance component. We just do it through music, but more and more our focus is now through language and music.
Yeah.
Because that's where, to us, culture sits. And so every time we get like an idea, it's like, ooh, yeah, let's revive the Ngarrindjeri Songbook.
Yeah.
Which is on the card. So Daniel Rankin's coming in, and of course he's looking at the old one.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, well, you've done the new Ghana one, let's do the Ngarrindjeri one. And so the language evolves, as you know, and then so does the music.
Yeah.
And what I loved about the Ghana Songbook was over the years, CASM has had pocketed relationships with Kaurna mob.
Mm-hmm.
And having a project like this unites a whole set of families, a whole set of, language focus and things like that. And having them here in CASM is just unbelievable. It's like, that's just so powerful.
Yeah.
It really is powerful. And they're all here for a focus, which is, let's do this for our community, for our mob, for the maintenance of our culture, and let's get that back out there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this whole thing. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've been here for 30 years. It's like, whatever. I come down here for 6 months.
Oh. And yeah, no, just how you said as well, like it's, you've worked with people back from the, old Songbook or something like that, or people that played a part in that. And I guess it's, it's that almost that round circle journey where you then, was hearing about or working with Annie Leela Rankin, and then, coming down to, her granddaughter, and just other family members from previous members that have now passed on.
Yes.
But it's just seems like a whole round trip for you. Yeah.
It is an amazing round trip, and CASM's amazing. So when you've been here and blessed like I have been for 30 years, you get to see generational sort of, students. So we've had all the Lakanyeri band here at the moment, all the Rigneys. So I taught their father and I taught their daughters, and that there's a whole another story in there that we want to go down that rabbit hole and sort of do some sort of legacy around that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I was on a previous version of the Kaurna Songbook, recording with Uncle Snooky.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember down in Finner Street where I was doing one of these songs, and I was only in here lecturing for 2 years, like two smokers, Anyway, I walked in there all big shot and went, let's go, Uncle, I'll drop down this guitar riff, thinking I was all that, And he come out and cursed me. And I went, hey, what's going on here? He goes, no, that's just showing off now. Just behave yourself. And I was like burnt, eh? I walked out of that room thinking, I'm going to go and cry. And then I was wild. And next minute, he's in here for the new songbook. So I said to Dylan, Dr. Dylan Krismani, I said, we've got to get Uncle Snooky back in here and get him to do these new songs. I wonder if he remembers it. He might curse me again,
Yeah.
But I was ready.
Oh.
But it was, like you say, it was a whole journey that I absolutely loved to be part of.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, it's an honor to be on these things. If you talk about legacies and things like that, CASM in itself is a legacy, for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And being part of it, and hopefully, being part of all these resources, I'll be able to leave my little legacy here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have left a legacy that you just don't know that you've left yet. It's not until, you sort of go, you don't realize it now, but I feel like you're making history, and, 20 years later, people are going to be thinking, oh, that Grayson fella, he was my teacher back in the day. And you've definitely, I feel like you would have had a big imprint on people, like even now. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And it's not about having to leave an imprint. I think it's more about, going back to the co-directorship of CASM. We have this amazing director or dean now of the Elder Conservatorium, Anna Goldsworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's incredible. So she in herself is the first, I believe, the first female dean of the Elder Conservatorium.
Yeah,
that in
wow.
itself is amazing. But her first priority was to promote Dylan and I as directors, or one of us.
Yeah.
So what she did was ask me, and because I've been here for too long, right?
Yeah.
Too long. And she says, well, we need to have a conversation, Grayson. And I thought, oh, no, this can't be good. Anyway, so go up to her office, and she says, well, I'm thinking of having an Indigenous director at CASM.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, well, logical choice is Dylan. He's got his doctorate, which is true. And I said, I'm happy to support him. I don't, I have no phase in climbing ladders. I'm not into that. And she goes, so you don't want it? And I said, no, God, no. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, which is, I can stay under the radar, and I love what I'm doing, and anyway, so I thought that was all done. So she calls up Dylan. Here I am thinking, here he goes. I've just stitched him up, threw him under the bus. And then a week later, she gets us both in the office. So he thinks that he stitched me up by throwing me under the bus for director, and I did the same to him.
Ah.
So, so we're sitting there looking at each other going, yep, okay, sucked in, bruz. And she goes, I've decided that we're going to make you both directors. And we both looked at each other and went, well, what happened? And so I guess the long story, long answer to that question is having a legacy, walking into a role isn't about me. It's about the role of that position. And the fact that we've left or set a precedent for having Indigenous leadership now, and what that means, the role itself is a legacy. It's whatever we can put into that role and all the outcomes, that's the legacy. And if there are 4 resources or 5 resources that come out of our leadership, then that's a CASM legacy. It's not anything to do with me or Dylan. It's legacy for the program.
Yeah. And I think that's what we do just as Aboriginal people. It's not like, we're not about climbing ladders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's, we're here, we want to support our people and just doing what's, want the best for our own mob and stuff like that. So,
yes, correct.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess looking ahead now, what's next for CASM and what are you excited to see that's going to grow here?
Yeah, I did allude to this earlier, and that is the Journeys Home thing. So we've had some success with auditioning mob inside corrections and then getting them to graduate through CASM. So the next step is to get something that's more structured and longer term. So there is a program that happened a few years ago. They tried to get off the ground called Journeys Home or Pathways Home. And that's about taking a cultural group inside the detention centres, correction centres, and creating music programs, songwriting programs, and then it's ongoing. So 4 times a year for 3 years. The outcome of that will be mob will be able to build a rapport with CASM, either the mentors, the cultural groups, and the students. So they know that they have a safe place here, a culturally safe space. They can step out and have some sort of direction.
Yeah.
So that's our first one, and over 3 years, it'll be amazing. So Daniel Rankin Trials is going to be a big cog in that machine. So he's worked inside before. He's done stuff with Paul Kelly. We have Nancy Bates inside that machine who's working with all the female corrections mob. So that one there is on our wish list to get over the line and get funding for it. The other one is growing the Indigenous Health Songbook. So at the moment we have 20 mob on it, 20 representations.
Yep.
Correct. 14 different mob on there. There are 20 songs. So we've put in for a grant to fund to help us get to 250.
Yeah.
Right. And that could be forever project for CASM. So whoever steps in after us, they'll be still doing that.
Yeah.
I reckon it's this young lad, Jaylon Newchurch. He's kind of a big shot now. He's a bit of a singer and so we've got that one. And the other one is a thing called Rough and Deadly. So over the 30 years that I've been at CASM, I do notice one thing, and that is every time mob come in here, they all want to learn the old iconic Aboriginal songs, So, you've got all the new sort of vanguard coming through now, but you've got all the old guard that still pop up, all the no fixed address stuff, all the, Coloured Stones songs, all that iconic songs. So we're going to do a national resource on those songs. So they'll be in schools.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be, supplemented with a synopsis or an overview of how did Uncle Bunna write, Black Boy? What was happening in that socio-political narrative when he wrote it? And that is very insightful.
Yeah.
Because it's like a time capsule of what was happening in Australia at that time. And so we want to build something like that.
Yeah.
And so we'd have it here in CASM, but we'd have it on a national level. And I think schools would absolutely love that. And I think they're the big ones that we've got on the cards at the moment. And just growing things like the Kaurna Songbook and getting that out into schools so it's got more dissemination, more impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I reckon, that's all we've got time for. I'll just say thank you, Grayson, for coming in and having a yarn with us. I really appreciate it. Just all your knowledge and experience. And I just want to say thanks for coming on and having a yarn.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It's always difficult to talk about yourself, so it's easier to talk about the program that you're in. So, and I really appreciate this time.
Thanks for listening to Ngana Bawanga, Stories from the Mobile Language Team, a podcast from the Mobile Language Team at Adelaide University. If you want to learn more about the work we do supporting Aboriginal languages across South Australia, visit the Mobile Language Team website. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to sharing more about language in future episodes. Nakara.